The summer of 1965, Bulgaria. On the shore of the Black Sea, a festival was born that would soon become the biggest musical event in Eastern Europe. It would be broadcast to more than 200 million viewers. And no, this wasn't Eurovision. This was the incredible music festival, the Golden Orpheus.
The Golden Orpheus is an international festival of Bulgarian pop music.
And you know what? In my hand right now, I'm holding a true artifact from that very festival. And it's not just a vinyl record from the 70s. No, it's much more than that. It's a piece of giant legendary history, almost forgotten today. But for us, beatmakers and producers, it's not a problem, it's maybe even a gift, because if the festival is long forgotten, so are the records and the melodies from those records, which means a very huge source for inspiration and samples, untouched by others. Well, this is it, a piece of legendary history from 1970. Let's talk about this festival.
Traditionally, it takes place in June at the Sunny Beach Resort Complex on the Black Sea coast.
At first it was a modest festival called Songs of the Bulgarian Black Sea, but very quickly it grew, and just 2 years later it received its legendary name, the Golden Orpheus. Every summer here in Sunny Beach, thousands of people would gather. The atmosphere was unique. The sound of the sea, the hot sun, applause, and on stage, the brightest voices of Eastern Europe. The festival was really special because it was international. Artists came from the Soviet Union, Poland, Yugoslavia, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, but also from Italy, France, Cuba, and even the USA. In the 70s that was something unimaginable, a music stage where cultures met, separated in daily life by the politics and the Iron Curtain. Over the years, dozens of full compilation LPs and hundreds of singles were released, most of them in the very limited number of copies. Today they are true rarities, hiding unique arrangements, funky groove and the jazzy spirit of that era. And that makes the records from the Golden Orpheus a real treasure for beatmakers, because our producers, they have already forgotten about this festival. And the Western producers, like from the USA, they have never heard about it, probably. That means a lot of fresh, untouched samples. What is more, we have to remember that because of the international format, musicians were allowed a little more freedom, and on the stage they often experimented, adding funk grooves, touches of jazz, and music sounded very fresh and unexpected for that time in the 70s. These tracks still surprise us even today. Let me explain it to you one more time, because most probably you don't understand what I'm talking about. In that era, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, in Eastern Europe, in that part of our world, it was unimaginable for local artists to record jazz, funk and something in that style. And that's why they didn't call it jazz, they didn't call it funk or something like this, but they made music that you listen to and it sounds like true funk, true jazz or something like this. It wasn't possible in the everyday life, but for them, for international musicians who were allowed to travel to other countries, they were allowed much more freedom in that sense. Oh, crazy days of the Iron Curtain. So listen, every time when I play such records, it feels like I'm having a conversation with the past. And you know what? The past answers, with its groove, with its atmosphere. And that's why, in my opinion, the Golden Orpheus is not just another forgotten chapter in history. This should stay, it should remain. Alright, let's listen to this vinyl record. I'm 100% sure we're going to find something interesting this side. Oh my god, the bass line. Let's start from the beginning. Of course, pitch down, slow down. Very nice. What did I tell you? It's funky, very funky, and there was no funk in that time officially, but this is funky. Let's keep digging. Wow. I already can imagine how it sounds in the track. Wow, nice. Nice. nice strings. I really like how it sounds. Listen to the melody. Listen to the melody. Let's keep digging. Oh my god. Yes. I need to sample that. I need to sample that. Boom, boom. Yes. I'm gonna work with that sample first. Boom, boom. Yes. It has everything. That's what you call a perfect sample. And I remind, if you want to learn how to use these instruments professionally, MPC or SP404 have special educational courses just for that. The link is in the description. Notice in this part there is something a little different. So, as you probably noticed, in this part I broke the monotonous slice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because in this part... And so I understand that later on I'll be able to fit those short bass parts much better into the groove of my track. So, of course, it's not always 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes you break the rules, and it's okay. Later on, most probably somewhere in the chorus, I'm going to rearrange the second part of the melody. I don't know, I'll play around and see what pattern comes next. So for this track, I was looking for some drums, and in the beginning I took a drum break, sliced it into one shots, like that. But something was off. I didn't feel the groove. So it was, the melodic sample is alright, I like it a lot. But with these drums with one shots, and I tried multiple one shots, something didn't snap, and I decided to go the other way. So these are the drums from my sample pack, and I was looking for something more continuous, because one shots for this melodic sample, it feels like something choppy, like but I wanted a continuous feeling of the drums, of the groove. So again, I returned to my sample pack, and I was aiming at something that I would not even chop, like this. And most probably the hats in the 16th, like something like that. And as I promised, I didn't slice the drum break because I wanted to keep this continuous feeling, the groove. And if you notice, there is warping happening on my drum breaks, because originally, we can look at it, it's 82 BPM, and my project is at 83. I select the sample and say warping. However, by default, it's going to give us Pro 10 algorithm. And the biggest problem with Pro 10 warping is that it absolutely blurs and destroys all the transients of the drums, of the drum breaks. I can hear how it's all like blurred and not very punchy and snappy. However, when we use repitch, this is the new algorithm with the 3.0 software, it changes the pitch according to the speed of our project, yes. However, it keeps the transients in place. They are not faded. I can give you a more dramatic example. Let's go to 100 BPM. You can hear that it's crazy, but all the transients are still there. However, with Pro 10, it's terrible. And if we go, for example, to 60, and with repitch, it's still terrible, but you can hear that all the transients are still in place. Okay, and from 82, the original BPM of the drum break, to 83, the difference, nobody's going to notice the difference. But I'm keeping all the transients, and this is what I want. Let's talk about editing, and we go to track mix. And I'm an advocate of very simple, minimalistic editing, because we often have this conversation with my students. If you applied a lot of plugins and you are still not satisfied with your sounds, or let's make it even more dramatic, if you are not satisfied with your project even before all plugins, that means that you made some production mistakes in the first part. So go back to production, change your snare or hi-hat or the melodic sample in the end. But if you're not satisfied with how your track sounds in general, even before all effects, all plugins, it means that you should go back and change something with the production itself. So, with a melodic sample, it's all very simple. The first one is one of my favorites is stereo width, because before it's not very wide mix, but I like to keep it centered, so the focus of my attention is somewhere in your face. And the next secret weapon is, of course, this multiband filter bank, because this is a sort of a EQ with a visual representation of what is happening. And I'm aiming at the mid-band. So I increase the drive and the loudness only of the middle part. And you can change the width of the focus. So I am interested in this region only. And I go back to my parametric EQ, nothing difficult. In the previous plugin, I increased the mid-range overall, but in the next plugin, parametric EQ, I cut out some of the high mid-range where the vocals kick in later in the track. And the next plugin is compressor, because as I mentioned, there are some parts with bass, some parts with melody only, some parts with vocals, and so I want to keep it consistent throughout the track. Look at the reduction bar, so it's -7 or 8 decibels. Not much, but it's still there. And the drums, of course, let's edit the drums, because without all the editing, it sounds alright and consistent. However, my absolutely favorite weapon of choice is soft clipper, because without, let's listen before. It's so much better with soft clipper because it gathers the sound in front of your face. It adds nice harmonics to the track. It even feels louder. However, if we go to pen and volume, and I have already made a lot of tests, even the videos, if you compare the track before and after the plugin, the numbers of decibels is even lower, but it feels louder. This is how saturation works. Use saturation, this is your friend. The next plugin, Air Transient. This is my secret weapon because I absolutely love using it on drum breaks, especially not on one-shots, but with drum breaks they really shine. It's a compressor but in a different form, but it's still a compressor under the hood. So let's listen to before. And now the drum break is breathing. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, this is happening because I added sustain. Let me go back to 0 and make it more dramatic. So this tail of every transient increases and it gives you this pumping, breathing effect. However, in some cases with drum breaks, you want to go the other way and make them dry and very short. Maybe like this. But in this case, I want to increase this tail, so it sounds much better. And together with the sample, I like it much better. Disappeared. This is the energy. This is the energy in the drums. And if we look at the sends, you can notice that 1, 2, 3. On the third send, I have something happening there. And what is it? Let's go to send return 3, send 3, return 3. I have low fly dirt. Very basic settings at 0 and first position of the first module. It gives saturation, it gives this lo-fi vibe to the drums and to the sample, because without this plugin, again, the mid-range appears. It becomes even a little more, I don't know, harsh, but in a good way. So, altogether, this track sounds like this. But of course, this is not the only video where I talk about sampling. You should definitely check those videos right here. They are very informative. And I see you later. Bye.